Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's ClaritySoft webinar. Today is Tuesday, August 27th, 2019. I'm Susan Arnold, Implementation Specialist here at ClaritySoft, and our topic for today is Access Profiles and UI or User Interface Templates. This is something that the admin user has control of in the system, and access profiles allow you to set up how you want each user in the system to see the data, what records that user can see. So we will be covering all the ins and outs of that. First of all, one of the things I will go over is a definition of each access profile type. The standard types that are in ClaritySoft are the all access profile, individual, manager, those three, and then you can also create your own custom profiles, which we will learn how to do. And then each of the profiles that you have different settings that you can modify, again, to control what the user can do within the database. And so as we work, I have different people in my database that I will be logging out and logging in with different access profiles so that you can then see how the changes affect what the user sees in the database. And then along with the access profiles goes what we call the user interface templates. Each access profile that you have can have a different user interface template, meaning that for the all access profile, you could have the users on that one see certain fields. For individual, you could have the users see a different set of fields in the data in the records. So we'll look at that so you have an understanding of that as well. And you can get all the way down to controlling the field level, whether someone can edit a field or not edit a field. Someone can see fields, not see fields, and all the different aspects. So by the end of the session, you should be very comfortable with logging into the database, looking at your users, looking at the access profiles, and deciding how you want things set up. So let's go ahead and get started. If you have any questions while I'm working, Zoom meeting has the Q&A panel, so feel free to type any questions that you might have in that Q&A panel, and I will get to those questions as we work, and for sure by the end of the session. All right, so you're currently looking at my ClaritySoft demo database. I have logged in as myself, and you can see here for the owner field that I can see all the different users in the system. And I'm also looking at 313 records in ClaritySoft. So my profile, my access that I have for myself is all. That means that you can see all records, no matter who the owner is. The owner field is what controls the what people can see. To get to access profiles and change the settings, you go to the settings menu, the gear shape in the upper right corner, and then on the left, you click on users and access. And this is where you start to set things up in this section. Now, again, you do have to be an admin user in the database or you will not even see these settings down here. But if you're not an admin user, you can listen and learn and then talk to your admin user if you want to make changes to your database. So first of all, I'm going to look at users, and I can see over here a list of my users, and for each user, I can see what profile is assigned to that user. Currently, my users are either an all profile or an individual profile. Individual means that the user, when that user logs into your ClaritySoft database, can see only his or her own records and no one else's, okay? We also have a manager profile, which allows the user who is set as the manager to have people report to him or her And then the manager can see his or her own records plus those of the people below. And the people below cannot see upward to see the manager's records. They see only their own records because they're set as an individual. And I'm going to show you samples of this as we go along. Okay. And then I'll just come over here to well, I'll go into a record here. So let me open up myself. And in the record, if you've done your setup, you know you put in the user's first and last name, title and phone number are optional, but the email you definitely want to put in because the system uses that to communicate with the user. And then you have a user login name, a password. Here is that reports to field that will basically be a drop-down list of all the users, and you only need to use that if you're setting up a manager structure. Then here's the profile. So we have our different profiles. These are the ones built into ClaritySoft. And we already described these three. The team profile you do not want to use because this is a legacy profile that came from ClaritySoft offline. So that one you do not want to use. Instead, we have created what are called groups. And then terminated, this is an important one to know because if you have a person leave your company and will no longer be accessing ClaritySoft, you don't delete them from the user list. You do two things. You mark their profile as being terminated, and then you go down to the bottom here and you click in the checkbox for deactivate. This will do two things. It will, first of all, deny them access to your ClaritySoft database. They will no longer be able to use their login to get into the database, which is important. And the second thing, when you deactivate them, it will free up your license for that person so that you can then add a new person when the new person comes on board. So you don't ever want to delete a user. You want to terminate them in the profile and deactivate them in this checkbox, and then you would save the record. And then they would no longer be able to log in, okay? So that's what that is for. Then your other fields that are in your user record, you have a time zone field that you can set where the user is. And it can be where the user is. So not, you know, if your corporate office is in Eastern time and the user is in Pacific time, then for that user, you would set the Pacific time. And you can have other standard times from around the world. User types here. This can feed into, from over here, you can define user types. And then those can be assigned to a user, and then that allows you to control through filtering in the database or through reports and filtering different lists that can come out. So for example, if your team works in territories or regions, you can create a user type of regions or territories and then assign each user to a specific region or territory. And then when you run reports, you can pull out the sales, say, or the quotes or the opportunities for all of the people in region 1 or all of the people in the Northeast region, however you define it. And so it just gives you another level of being able to pull out reports and do filters within the database. Then the groups, again, over here, you would define a group. And what that is for, if your people are working in regions or territories, maybe all the people that are in, let's say, region A, need to see each other's records, but not see outside of that set. And so you can create a group called region A and then assign the user to that group and give the user visibility into that group. and then they can see each other's records. So if person A, person B, person C are in region A, they see each other's records, but not anyone else's. And then if there's a region B, you can do the same thing. So all of this is giving you control of what people can see in the database through the use of the groups and your definition of those different groups. The other access way you can do this is you can have down here, as you've added all your users, you have visibility to users. So if a person is in region A group, but that person also needs to see someone else's records that aren't part of region A group, then you can come down here and click in the checkbox for that person, and that person's records then will be added to the view that user can see. So a lot of combinations that you can do here, and probably the first thing you need to do before you even put in your users is sit down and think through, well, what kind of groups do we need? What kind of user types do we need? So that when you do add your users, you can assign these right away. Now, if you don't do it right away, no big deal. You just, after you get in here and you start using the database, sometimes people change their mind and say, oh, well, we would like to put people in groups, or we would like to, make them individuals rather than seeing all. No problem. You just come in, you change the settings for the user, the person logs out, logs back in, and then the new settings take effect for that user. And a lot of times that's the best way to do it until you see how people are going to work in ClaritySoft exactly. Setting them to all makes perfect sense. And then once they get going, a lot of times that's the first question that a salesperson might say is, how can I see only my own records? And so you can say, give me 3 minutes or less, and I will fix it for you. So that's what you do there. And then for the admin user, if you are in the system, you are an admin user, so that checkbox is checked for you. And anyone who does not have that checkbox checked is not able to do all these admin settings, okay? So let's actually go over and let's say we want to add a user type. So what you do is you click on user type and then you give it a name. So let's just say region. And then we can, well, we would do region A, okay. And then I can add another one. And this could be northeast, southwest, southeast, whatever however you define your groups of people. Then we could do now user groups. I can come over here and add, and maybe I have an inside sales team. Oops, definitely cannot type today. And then I can add people to my group. So I name the group, I can put a description in here, click enabled to make sure it's an enabled and active, and then I can add people to that group, okay? And this will be a list of all of your users. And then you can click save, okay? And then I could maybe add another one for outside sales and have it enabled. And I don't have to add people here. I can actually add them in their user record. So I'm going to do that for this one. And notice also that the child group could be inside sales. So the outside sales could see inside sales. A lot of combinations here. So if I go back over here now to my users and I open Allison's record, you will see now that she's part of the inside sales group. And then I can give her visibility into that. All right. Now I'm going to actually turn this off temporarily because I want to do something else first and then come in. But you can set this up and save it. All right, so let's do this. I'm logged in as Susan and I see all. I'm going to log out and then log in as Allison, okay, so that you can see what it looks like as an individual. Because when I log in as Allison, Allison should see only her own records. And this is really a nice thing to be able to do this if you are the person setting this up. You can set your users up with their access profiles, and if you have some records in there that belong to the different people, then you can actually test your settings before you turn it loose on all your users, which is nice. So I have logged in as Allison. You'll notice I have different colors. And then over here, you can see records only say Allison is the owner, and she can see 31 records, whereas what I was seeing as an all access profile user was 313. So she sees only her own records throughout the database where she is the owner, okay? And so she never has to worry about stepping on anybody else because she's in here, all right? So let me do this. Let me go log. Also notice too that if I go to settings, Allison does not have admin rights, and therefore she does not see all of the options in settings, which is what you want for most of your people. I guess I don't need to go back. So I can log out. And then I'm also, it's not, I hit the log out. I'm going to log in as Bob, because Bob is also set as an individual in the system. So when he logs in, he will see only his own records, okay? Now he's also seen Randy because I think this is being shared. But here's Bob seeing his own records. Now I'm going to go in and make a change. So I need to log back in as myself because I'm the admin user. Going to do a lot of logging out and in today. And if I go to settings, then I can go to users and access. And I'm going to go back into Allison's record and reassign her to that inside sales team. Okay. So she now is set to be part of the inside sales team. And then I'm going to go to Bob and I'm going to do the same thing. He's inside sales. He can have visibility into it and save it. So now when I log out and log in as Allison, Allison should see her records as well as Bob's records. So you can see here, she's seen her records, she's seen Bob, she's also seen this one because this one is shared with Bob. So she is seeing now 38 records, which would be the 7 that Bob had plus the 31 that Allison had. So by assigning them to a group, their individual access profile gets expanded to include whoever the members of the group are. All right. And if I log in as Bob, then he will see Allison's records, which he was not seeing before. And you notice I just went in, made a quick change with some check marks, saved it, and then as soon as they log out, log back in, the changes are there. So now Bob is seeing all of Allison's records as well as his. So he's now seeing 38 records, okay? So that's how that one works. And then the way the visibility into users works is if I go take Allison again, she's going to be my go-to person today. And I turn off, she's removed from inside sales, but she now is going to be able to see Larry. So this means that she would be able to see her own records plus Larry, okay? Or actually, let's do this. We'll leave her in inside sales, which means she can see herself plus Bob. And now I'm adding an individual of Larry that she can see beyond the inside sales team to Larry's records. So now you should see somewhere down in here, there they are, Larry's records. Because I added Larry as an individual, he's not part of the inside sales team, but he's an individual that Allison can see. And if I log in as Bob, Bob will not see Larry's records because Larry is not part of the inside sales team. So hopefully you can begin to see how you can make all these combinations. And it's just a matter of sitting down and thinking it through who you want to see what in the database. So here's Bob. He can see Allison's record and that one Randy Closer one, but he does not see Larry. So Allison is inside sales plus Larry, all right? So hopefully that all makes sense. Now, other controls. That's kind of the high level. Who can see what records? Now let's get into more of the nitty-gritty of the access profiles themselves. Because within the access profiles, you can control other things that people do. So here's our list again. And these are the different built-in access profiles, but you can create new ones. First, we're going to view one here. Here's the all access profile. And these are what all the access profiles will look like when you open one up. Is first of all, you get to choose, is this profile applied to a person who's a salesperson in the database? If they're a salesperson, then their sale records and all of that get included in reports or count in reports and dashboards and things like that. If they're not marked as a salesperson, then that does not happen. Lead manager means that if the person is in the leads module, the person has the ability to change the owner of a lead record to any user in the system. If you turn this off, then they do not have that capability, okay? Then down here, we have our tabs here that give us different features that we can control. First of all, on the Data Access tab, you're controlling what modules everybody can see that has the All Access profile. So this is the visible. If I uncheck any of these, that turns off the module from view. Then can you create a new record in the module? Can you edit your own record? Can you delete your own record? Can you edit a shared record, meaning one that belongs to someone else, and can you delete shared? So these are all different features that you want to go through and think about and set up. So usually what I recommend is the all profile should be for the person who is the admin user in the system and needs all rights in the database. And don't mess with this one. Instead, create a new one. And you can give it a name. Now what I like to do is I like to include the profile, what it is, in the name. So I could say like individual inside sales team. That means that the access rights are individual, and I know that, or I might start it with all if the access rights are all. So I like to give it a name that makes sense to me and tells me what the profile rights are. And then you can type a description, and then you can say, yes, this person, this user would be a salesperson. No, they're not a lead manager. And then right here, you have to be careful. This is a little bit hard to see. This is where you choose your data access. And in this case, I want individual. Okay? So the access is actually individual, see your own records only. And then let's say the sales team does not need to see the support module, issues, projects, equipment, which is a custom module in here. And so I can turn these off, all right? Then for creating, absolutely, they need to create their own records. They need to be able to edit their own records. Deleting is another thing. If someone has deletion rights and they go to an account and they click delete and they don't really read the message that pops up, to warn them that when they delete the account, they're also going to delete all contacts, all opportunities, all activities, everything. They might just go, okay, do it, and then they wipe out a whole lot of data. So what I usually suggest until people are really comfortable with using ClaritySoft is to turn off the ability to delete anything except activities in calendar, because they might need to delete an appointment or something. So I usually turn that off. And then for sharing, a shared record is one that actually belongs to someone else. So I turn off all of this for the shared, that they can't do that. Okay? And again, if it's not working, come in and change it and it'll be fine. Then the next thing is to decide, well, what features do they have access to? Mass email means being able to send out 2 or more emails at the same time. I think people need that, okay? Because they might want to send 3 people the same email, or 5 people, or 10, that's fine. Export to Excel means that you can select records and then export them out to an Excel file that you can decide whether you want them to do it or not. Merging accounts and contacts. This would mean if you somehow got a duplicate of an account in there where the company name is spelled slightly differently and you want to merge them together to get rid of the duplicate. Again, you may or may not want them to do that, and the same thing happens with a contact. So that's a good function and a good feature because that does happen. Importing is another one to decide on. I tend to say some 1 or 2 people should be the ones who actually import data, because many times people's data lists are not very clean and they go and throw a bunch of data in, and it really tends to mess up your database. Whereas if you have that going through 1 person or 2 people who know that the data is in good shape and is cleaned up, then they do the import. So you can turn that functionality off. Then action plans, again, in your own database, you may not have access to this, and maybe only 1 person should create that, or 2, and then Excel reports are another thing for creating Excel reports. Group edit means you can select more than 1 record at a time and edit them set the same value for 1 particular field. That's a useful function for updating things. Manage products, probably would turn that off. That would mean they could go into settings and add products and services to your price book, which you probably don't want people to do, okay? Because they can add a custom item in a quote or an opportunity under the products and services tab. And then advanced report just gives them the ability to run an advanced report, which would be good if you've developed them. And maybe, you know, if you're using Excel reports, you could turn that on. Marketing module, if you have purchased the marketing module, you may want to have an access profile for the 1 person who's using the marketing module and have this turned on for that person, but not for anyone else. So it just depends on how you want to control your database. And then report permission, this is for the reports module. This allows a person to view any reports for any of these modules, okay? Now, if you're controlling which modules they're seeing, you may want to turn off the reports for those modules too, because I don't know that it does it automatically. So turn those off, turn that off, okay. And then they can create a new report, which can be useful. They can edit an existing report, and then they can delete. Now, again, you could turn off the delete, but then what if they create their own report and they want to delete it? Then they can't. So there is a locking feature in the reports module where you can lock reports maybe that you've created and you don't want people to delete, but leave this turned on, all right? Sales stage access. This one, in your opportunities, you are able to set sales stages, okay? And then when a person goes to create a new opportunity, they will see a drop-down list of all those sales stages. Well, one of the things that we added, this has been a while back, is the ability that if you do have, say, an inside sales team and an outside sales team, they may do sales stages in different ways. So you can create the full list of access profile or sales stages, but for your inside sales team, maybe they don't do a presentation. Whatever, we'll just turn a couple off here. So remember that I've turned off process documents and presentation for the inside sales team, all right? So once you have all your settings done, you click Save, and then it says we'll reset the navigation menu, so it's just giving you warnings that you've done this, okay? So now I have another access profile here that I can assign to any of my users. Well, when you do this, when you create a custom access profile, that leads to the next thing that you have to do, which is to create the user interface template for it. Each access profile has its own user interface template. So that is found over here on the left under customization and UI templates. So now I need to go to the account UI template. And when you go to the user interface template, you get this drop-down list of all of your different profiles that you can select from. And then you can see my new one. So if I click on the all profile, I have all these fields set up, okay? Now it's possible I want these very same fields set up for my inside sales team. And if I go here, notice the difference. All of these custom fields didn't get pulled over here. It just puts the default ClaritySoft fields over here, not your custom fields, because it doesn't know which ones you want or don't want. So you can then drag them over. The other way that you can do this is you can say, go to your all template, look at it, and then say, okay, I want to copy this to my individual sales team template. And then that way, you don't have to go drag and drop all of them. You simply copy it, and now when I go back to my sales team, it's the same. You didn't see any difference when I switched because it's the same. And at this point, you know, if I wanted to move things around, I could move them in here, whatever I wanted to do. So this is really nice to be able to do. And we also do have what's called a base template, which is in a sense your master. So if you set up the base template first, then you can copy it to any other template as a quick way to set up your fields. And then you can go to that other template and make changes individually to it if you want. So you can see here, I have different setup for different templates, and you can have different ones. So that gets you down to the field level. Now, let me go back to this one, because in your user interface template, you set up your fields the way you want. Then you have this field configurations tab, and now you have more control. These are all your fields listed over here, and at the bottom of the list in a green color are your custom fields. And then you can make certain fields visible within the template, okay? Now, if you drag a field from over here to over there to the left, then it will become invisible. For example, if I don't want has shipping address, I can just drag it over and drop it. It's still in here is marked as being visible, but it won't show up because I dragged it out of view. So that's the way I tend to do it, because it's easier for me, I think, to say, well, everything that's over here is not in view. Everything that's over here is, okay? And not have to worry about checking this box, because that can get confusing. And then some of the fields, if you're in a situation where maybe you're importing data from another source into fields in the database that you don't want people to change, you can then make them read only here. So when they go to the record, they will not be able to change that particular field. And then the other one that you can do is if when they're creating a new record, you want to be sure that they add a phone so that you at least have a contact point for a new account that's being added, then the person will not be able to change the field or will not be able to save the record without entering a phone number. But you want to be careful on those. People tend to go crazy, and sometimes they put too many required fields, and then people get annoyed when they're trying to fill in a record and they have too many required fields. So think about that before you do it, okay? So, and then this is report permission. This goes back to what we set in the access profile. that will show there, and you can change it again here if you want. So you get all that set up, and then you click Save. All right. And what you will have to do is you will go back here, and you will need to do the very same thing for all the modules. So you'll need to go to the Contact UI template, and you'll need to choose your inside sales team one, and then if there's anything that needs to come over here, you can copy from your base template or from your all template. So you can copy to or copy from, which is nice. So you can see different fields were added here, and then save it. So you'll need to go through all of your user interface templates for that new Access profile that you've created and save them all. Then once you're finished, you can go back to settings here, and I'm going to go to my users and go to Allison again. And this, where it says profile, I'm going to change her from the individual profile to the individual inside sales team profile. Okay, so save that, log out. Log in as Allison. So she will still see Bob's records, okay? But now the difference will be if she opens one of Bob's records, notice all the fields are grayed out. She cannot edit it, okay? Because that's that edit shared. We turned all that functionality off, okay? So she can't edit it. However, she could add a new contact, and that contact would belong to her. So if they are working together at an account, she can add new contacts. She can add activities. She can, now she opens the original contact record again, she will not be able to edit it. All right. So it gives you control that way, so that the original owner of a record is the one responsible for keeping the address and the phone number and all that stuff up to date, and they're not conflicting with one another in doing things. But she can see the data, and she can add new records that are child records. She just can't change the original. Also, notice over here in her navigation panel, we no longer see projects and equipment and issue and support. All those modules are gone. She doesn't know they exist. And again, you may have different people in the database that you only want them to see certain modules because that's all they need to see in the database. Maybe a support team that's using the support module would see accounts, contacts, maybe activities and support. That's it. That's all they need to see. They don't need to see opportunities and quotes and sales because they don't work in that area. So use your Access profiles to control that. And then your user interface templates. All right. So let me make sure I am covering everything I want to cover here. One last thing I did want to touch on is another feature that you may or may not be aware of. and it's relatively new. We now have what are called account record types. And the way this can be used, for example, here I have customers and I have dealers and I have prospects. Well, maybe the dealers that I work with, I have different pieces of information that I want to track in a dealer record rather than a customer record. And I might be in a situation where I've created one tab of data to be for the normal customer, and perhaps a second tab I might rename to dealer info and put any dealer information on this tab to segregate it. You know, maybe I need some kind of dealer tax ID number or things like that that are specific to a dealer and don't have anything to do with customer. And I can you know, I can do that within the same record. But what we now have that you can do is you can create, and this is a function that needs to be turned on. It's probably not turned on in your database, and if you decide after seeing this you're interested in it, you'd have to contact your account rep and talk to them about having it turned on. But under customization and under account, you will see record types. And then you can add a record type. So if I would call it dealer, and you might have multiple ones. Again, it depends on your data and your database. Like for example, I have somebody I'm working with right now that they have in the contacts, we have two record types. One record type is for student information and another record type is for tutor information, because they match tutors with students. And so we've created two different record types because the data fields are different for the two types of people. So if I add this, then again, notice I now have an account dealer UI template, and I must go here and I get to choose, say for the all access profile, what I want as my layout, which again, I can use the copy to, copy from, and then just save it. And then I would do that for all my profiles. Well, actually, I don't have to. It's just one dealer template. So then once I log out and back in, and I should have made my dealer template different. I didn't. But when I come up here to new account, notice when I click on it, it's saying, well, which type of account record do you want? A dealer one or a default account one? So if I choose a dealer one and click apply, then I'm going to get the layout for the dealer with only the dealer fields there and not the fields for the customer. So it's a way to differentiate if you are working with different types of businesses and you want to track different types of information per type of business. So it's just another control that you have. And then you also, there is a field that you can pull in that'll say what record type it is. So you can search on the record types and pull up all the dealer ones versus all the regular ones. Okay. So I just wanted to bring that one up because that's a nice new functionality and you may not be aware of it. Now you are, and you may be able to think of a way to apply it to your particular business, okay? One more thing here real quick. Go back to Allison. I did not assign her to a region. So if I assign here to this region A, she is assigned to a group. And then save her. And if I go back out, did I actually log out? I don't think I hit it. Sometimes I don't hit it. And I go to my column settings. Here's user type 1. Can bring that over. So you can see wherever Allison is the owner, that's user type 1, region A field. That's what she's assigned. So I can use that for searching purposes. That if I wanted to find everybody in region A, I'm going to do contains. Then I would find everybody who's in region A, which right now the only person is Allison. If I went back in and assigned Bob to region A or someone else to region A, it would pull up. So you can use that user type for filtering purposes, and then also this field will pull into reports. So if you wanted to do a sales report for all of the salespeople in region A to find out the total of their sales or their quotes, then you can use that user type. So I wanted to make sure you understood how that gets used inside the database once you assign it to the user's record. All right. So a lot of things that we've covered. Kind of to review, your access profiles allow you to control what records the user sees in the database. You can use the standard access profiles that are in Claritysoft. You can create custom ones and set custom settings in that profile. And you can create as many access profiles as you need. You literally could have a different access profile for each user if you wanted to be that detailed, I guess. But you try and create ones that will go with, multiple users to make it easy on yourself, because every time you create one, you have to do all your user interface templates. So you create your profiles, you do your settings the way you want, test them with your user. So once you create this, you assign it to a user, and then you can log out and log back in to make sure that user's seen and able to do what they can do. And then you can also assign your user to user groups. Again, you can have as many groups as you need or want, and assign people to different groups. Within a group, people can see another group. They can also see other individuals. So by using those check boxes in the user record. And then for all of the access profiles that you create, you have your user interface templates where you do your field layouts for the user access profile, and it can be different from the other ones. Again, really nice to be able to have control over what fields different sets of people can see in your database. You may have numbers in your database that are, financial numbers that you want the upper level managers to be able to see, but not other people able to see. So if they have a different access profile and a different user interface template, you can control that. So a lot of combinations here. Hopefully I've given you some food for thought and given you some ideas on how maybe you can add some new features to your existing database and make it more, I guess, more user-friendly for all of your users, and maybe a little bit more beneficial for all the users in general as to what they see and don't see in the database. So if no one has any questions, then I will wrap up for the day so that you can get back to work. And go back here. And first of all, thank you for attending. This is our last session for August. Next week, we start our sessions in September. And you should have received an email this morning with our new sessions for the month of September. If not, let your account rep know and we'll make sure you get one. But they're also at the support portal. So if you go back out to the support portal, the new schedule's out there and you can register. If you need any help, call support at 888-838-7487, extension 2, or email them at support@claritysoft.com. If you are still in Quick Start and working with Linda or myself, then please give one of us a call and we'll be happy to help you. And then always I'm asking for new ideas, so please send us some new ideas, send us some critiques, and we're happy to listen to what you have to say. With that, I will say have a wonderful afternoon, and hopefully we will see you again at next week's session. Bye.